Happy New Year, everybody. Coming up tonight on News Center Now, the cold, it's brutal. It's causing a lot of problems, but for some people, they actually really enjoy it. We'll explain.
Speaking of weather, Keith Carson actually tracking what could be a pretty nasty storm for Thursday, so we'll have the details on that.
Plus, a woman checks off an entire bucket list for her dog.
This is News Center Now. Happy New Year's Day. I'm Amanda Hill.
And I'm Chris Costa. It is officially 2018, a new year, but the same old story in the weather department. Still frigid out there. Keith Carson's here with the first look at the forecast. Hey, Keith.
Guys, this is brutal, right? I mean, this stretch is pretty crazy. A lot of people have lived here for a long time and haven't seen one of these since the 70s. And here are the current temperatures, already below zero by a wide margin in the mountains. I mean, when you only get to 1 or 2 degrees, it's obviously not hard then to snap back below zero overnight. When you factor in the wind, it feels like almost 20 below in Berlin right now, almost 30 below in Greenville, and this continues to be the story. A forecast overnight lows where they've been about 5-6 degrees below zero along the coastline, which sadly is about 10 degrees warmer than this morning was, but overnight lows in the mountains will be 15 to 20 degrees below zero. Still a lot of sunshine, and that's what's so crazy about this, right? Usually our cold snaps do correspond with a lot of sunshine, and that's been the case here. Big ridge of high pressure way to our west is anchored in place, giving us a lot of sun, but it won't do much for the temperatures tomorrow. A lot of us stay in the single digits. We start to warm up here on Wednesday into the 20s, which will be downright balmy, 22, 23 degrees by Wednesday afternoon. But the real story, as Amanda alluded to earlier, is a storm system that we have been watching for several days now. It is a big storm system. It is going to be very, very strong, and it's going to approach us as we head into Thursday and Thursday night. The track is extremely important. It is the difference between just a little bit of snow and a true blizzard for Thursday evening. So guys, I'll give you my thoughts on that storm in a few minutes, but it is kind of a high stakes game.
I don't know that we want to know about the storm, I think.
Sorry.
All right, these frigid temperatures causing problems all over the place. For some city workers, it's broken water mains.
Yeah, and in Berwick, Noble High School's principal says the school is closed tomorrow due to a broken pipe. The cold weather is no doubt brutal for people who have to be outside, but others actually choose to go out in it. It sounds like a stream, water gushing out of an underground line that burst in the cold. It's creating a creek in this neighborhood between Old Orchard Beach and Scarborough and leaving some with dry faucets.
Caught me off guard. My parents texted me, told me to get some water on the way home, you know.
First responders say this long stretch of stinging temperatures is uncommon and unhelpful. They expect more water main breaks like this if the cold continues. Marshes are frozen, inlets and coves covered in sheets of ice. Spend 5 minutes outside and you'll freeze your beaks off. The Maine CDC warns people of frostbite and hypothermia, discouraging prolonged activities in the cold. Runners say they're bundled up and there's no place they'd rather be.
And it's a beautiful day. That's why.
Even if it's cold, you wouldn't want to go to a gym or do it on a treadmill instead?
I think today the gyms are going to be pretty crowded. You know, new year, new you, all that stuff. It gets pretty full.
And for those who have little choice but to actually go out in the bitter air, at least they usually have some company.
It's good for me. I love it. He keeps me on the straight and narrow, you know.
Not too cold for you though?
No. I've learned to wear really good warm clothing. Then you're not distracted by just trying to stay warm. You know, you can kind of enjoy it.
All right, yeah, got to stay warm somehow, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
2 new laws aimed at healthcare costs are coming into effect. Starting in the new year, Maine health insurance carriers will face new requirements under a law backed by Republican Senator Rodney Whitmore. Carriers must allow enrollees to get cost and quality data for comparable healthcare services through a website and toll-free telephone number. Carriers can satisfy that requirement by directing enrollees to the Maine Health Data Organization website. Also, carriers can no longer deny payment for a covered healthcare service because an out-of-network provider made the referral.
A new law aimed at addressing Maine's opioid crisis is now in effect as advocates demand more urgency. Law enforcement officials say 376 Mainers died of a drug overdose in 2016. 185 opioid deaths were confirmed in the first half of 2017, according to Maine Attorney General Janet Mills. Republican Representative Deborah Sanderson backed a new law that requires Maine health care providers to have an opioid medication prescribing policy by today. A state task force recently said Maine needs to improve how it helps uninsured people lacking treatment, as well as county jails struggling with inmate substance use disorders, and the need for more recovery housing.
This year, Maine legislators are looking to pick up where they left off in 2017. That includes passing a bill that would regulate medical marijuana sales in the state.
News Center's Tennyson Coleman joins us with where legislators are in the process. Hey, Tennyson.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Last year around this time, Governor LePage signed off on recreational marijuana legalization. Now, a year later, we still don't have regulations set for recreational pot sales. I talked to State Representative Teresa Purse today. She's a co-chair of the Marijuana Legalization Implementation Committee, and she told me there's a public hearing on the matter coming up this Friday in Augusta at 9 a.m. All of this comes after Governor LePage vetoed the bill that would have set regulations for recreational pot sales. He said it conflicted with federal law and didn't address existing issues with the medical marijuana program, and that it had an unrealistic timeline. That veto was sustained by legislators late last year. Purse says the committee will make some amendments before sending a new bill to the floor. Members of the committee are meeting with the governor and some of his cabinet members to hash out some of the changes.
I think there are different constituent or stakeholders have different concerns. So I think we heard through the last bill that there was some concern about the way the tax structure was laid out. There were some concerns about making sure we had enough protections in there for kids and law enforcement training. So I think we'll be looking at doing some more work toward that.
Purse says the committee will work quickly to make changes to the bill after Friday's public hearing. She's hoping legislators will be able to pass a bill as soon as possible. Chris and Amanda.
All right, Tennyson, thank you. When News Center Now continues, a lot of us have a bucket list, a list of things we want to do before life's end.
But what about a bucket list for your dog? That story is coming up. Houston area same-sex couple is upset after they say they were kicked out of an Uber Saturday night when they kissed. Jose Chavez and Randall McGill just got engaged. Saturday night, they celebrated at a friend's home and then called an Uber.
The couple says they each sat in separate seats in a minivan that had an aisle between the two when they leaned in for a quick kiss. Jose and Randall say the driver then told them to stop and that he couldn't take them any farther. He put them out, the couple says, in a deserted area around 4 o'clock in the morning.
And then when he told us that, we were kind of like, okay, well, we didn't want to fight back. We didn't want to say anything. We were like, okay, fine.
I've never heard of anybody being asked to stop kissing anywhere, especially when you're just peck on the lips.
Uber rules prohibit touching or flirting with other people in the car. The company also has a no sex rule, obviously.
But Jose and Randall say they've never had problems in the past when it comes to a quick kiss, and they feel they were targeted because they are gay. All right, switching topics now, something a little bit lighter. Do you have a bucket list of things you hope to do before you die? Skydiving, traveling to an exotic country, something like that?
You say lighter, but I'm going to cry. What do you think our four-legged friends would enjoy doing in their final days? Marival Santiago met a special dog and her owner who are making the best of a tough situation.
Kimber Hopkins and her English pointer Tulip have the bond of a lifetime.
When we adopted her in 2010, and everybody who adopts, it's a lifetime commitment. It's until their very end.
Over time, Hopkins noticed Tulip's health was declining, eventually finding out she's suffering from a tumor on her leg and she has liver cancer.
Whenever our vet confirmed that her time was short, I did not want her to be suffering.
And that's why she got busy on a bucket list for Tulip, and then her friends started pitching in.
Tulip herself means a lot to Kimber, and the ability to not only share her moments of her final days, not only with just people, but people who are close to her and her dog and the rescue.
One day, House of Fur owner Carrie Tucker made sure Tulip got pampered for a spa day. Another day, they visited some friends at Lucky Dog Thrift Shop, and then it was time for a trip to view Christmas lights and displays.
I'm not going through this alone. I've got some great friends in rescue, and some have even offered to go with me.
And those friends say they have made some very special memories along the way.
It makes a big impact to Kimber and probably to Tulip, but also anyone involved. I try not to think about it too much, see? Get all teary.
Hopkins says she's glad Tulip has had the life she has had all these years, thanks to pet adoption.
She deserved a home where she was loved and she was cared for until her dying day.
And that is exactly what Kimber has provided for Tulip, even making sure her final days are ones that are full with plenty of reasons to wag her tail.
Which is such a great thing to do. I think when these animals literally dedicate their lives to us, you know.
Their family.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I know,
Yeah.
Keith knows. Yeah,
Godparents.
they are. All right, Hopkins says she's going to wrap up the bucket list by taking Tulip to Hospice of Wichita Falls, where a donation will be made in her honor.
Very sweet. After the break, one couple from Colorado will head to South Korea for the Winter Olympics, but not because of their athletic abilities. And Keith Carson has your frigid full forecast next. A couple from Colorado is headed to the Winter Olympics, but not for their athletic abilities.
Allison Kahn Mariner and her husband Jeff were hired to join an international team of seasoned professionals producing the 2018 Winter Olympics and the Paralympic Winter Games in Pyeongchang, South Korea. Matt Renew reports.
At the Jungsan downhill course in Pyeongchang, South Korea.
I was hired as the mountain operations manager.
It's safe to say Salty Mariner,
most people call me that,
is a long way from his home in Colorado.
Certainly is.
He had just wrapped up the 2015 ski championships at Beaver Creek.
I can get a hold of everybody.
When he took a job a world away.
I'll help them build up a brand new venue.
Spending more than 2 years overseeing mountain operations,
snowmaking, grooming, chairlifts, ski patrol.
At the Olympic downhill venue where the world's best ski racers are competing.
It's definitely one of my hopes and dreams, I guess, to be part of an Olympics.
It's a long lift ride from Leadville, where Salty went to Colorado Mountain College.
Focused on the operations aspect.
I went to CMC as well.
Which is also the same school his wife Allison went to.
It's pretty unreal.
Who, just like her husband,
a ride back up,
built the features, built the jump,
has been working long hours on that same Olympic downhill course.
Re-prep the course, re-prep the surface. I think that was like a 26-hour day.
Where the Korean mountains are a little smaller.
Top of the mountain is 1,079 meters. The bottom here at the finish line is 545, I believe. Don't ask me to convert that to feet.
And the snow not as deep.
I don't even remember, honestly, what the annual snowfall here is, but it's recorded in centimeters.
But it's a course American ski racers love.
I'm really excited about this track. It's, got long sweeping turns.
Oh, okay.
One reason both Salty and Allison might be a little homesick.
It's not home, exactly. I miss Colorado.
But are thrilled for an Olympic opportunity far from home.
It's amazing to be here. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it.
By the way, the Winter Olympic Games are just 38 days away. Tune in right here for your coverage on News Center's Olympic Zone. Okay.
Speaking of winter.
Speaking of winter and skiing.
Skiing, I went this weekend. Yeah. It was cold. There was no doubt about it. I mean, the snow is actually really good, but there reaches a point where the gear only gets you so far. So I was okay on Saturday. Sunday, Guttner and I took one run, and we're like, maybe not.
Just don't fall down.
Maybe not.
Don't
yeah.
Get any snow anywhere. That's
I try
not
to avoid that
jacket.
in general, but yeah.
Well, yeah.
Even colder next weekend. But first, we have a storm to get through. So let's start with that. And overnight lows once again going to be chilly tonight. Stop me if you heard this. Look at this high temperature in Berlin. 1 below for the high. That's pretty awesome. 9 in Portland, 5 in Rockland. Forecast low temperatures tonight are actually warmer than last night. That's not saying much though, of course. We're going to be around 5-6 degrees below zero along the coastline, and then 15 to 20 degrees below zero in the mountains and the foothills. It'll be sunny again tomorrow, but the sun angle this time of the year is so weak. It's so low. It doesn't really do us any good. And often these cold snaps coincide with a lot of sunshine, right? Big Arctic high pressure system. So tomorrow's a good looking day, but it's another day when you go outside, your face is probably going to hurt. It starts warming up a bit as we head into tomorrow night and Wednesday. And by Wednesday afternoon, we'll be around 20, 23 degrees, which will feel relatively balmy at that point. But that's as some warmer air moves in. An approaching storm system is the reason for that. Let's talk about this storm. It's gotten a lot of buzz so far on social media, and I understand why, because this storm is a very high stakes forecast. It is going to be a very strong storm. We use the term bombogenesis when a storm system drops pressure 24 millibars in 24 hours. It's a sign of rapid strengthening. This storm is almost going to double that rate of strengthening as it moves up the eastern seaboard on Thursday morning. So look at this low. Just look at all these, they're called isobars, wrapped around this thing. The question, of course, is the exact track. There is no doubt there is a monster storm to our east on Thursday evening. How far to our east is the difference between just a few inches of snow and some gusty winds and a blizzard that would be, I think, really, really large and probably a lot like the blizzard of 1993. So let's talk about our initial thoughts on this. I had numbers on this map and then I took them off. I'm not a risk-adverse kind of person. There's just too much swing. If this storm system moves even 50 miles west, it's a different storm, so it just doesn't make sense yet to put numbers. I will tell you that down East Maine into northern Maine has the best chance of 6+ inches of snow. More moderate accumulations likely here from the coastline into the mountains, but moderate could mean anything from 3 to 6 to over 6 inches depending on the exact track. And the winds are going to be the biggest factor here through Thursday evening. They could be in excess of 60 miles an hour along the coastline and into down east. So guys, you know, I would love to tell you exactly what's going to happen. It will snow and you probably will be plowing it Thursday night, Friday. The difference between that and a blizzard is a minute track difference. I think that by tomorrow morning, we should be able to start putting some numbers out. But like I said, I'm not one to avoid this kind of thing. I had numbers and said, it's just not fair. If I say 3 to 6 and this thing shifts 75 miles and we get 18 inches, it just doesn't tell people the story they need to know. So we'll keep an eye on it, and by tomorrow we should be able to give you numbers that are going to at least be in the ballpark.
All right, so we'll obviously keep listening.
Yeah,
something like this.
It's not a
trick.
Keep tracking. I really just don't know yet.
Yeah,
that's got to be hard though for you.
Yes, I like to be a maverick about it, but not when a storm's this big and this dangerous.
Right.
Because nobody cares that if I got it 12 hours before. We just got to get it right.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks, Keith. Well, obviously we're not the only ones suffering from all the cold. Much of the country is doing the same, but cranking up your thermostat obviously can affect your eyes, making them dry and itchy.
Yeah, experts say using a humidifier can help restore moisture to the eyes, and drinking lots of water helps your body retain moisture. If you wear contacts, keep them clean, reduce itching and infection. Dry eye can sometimes progress to dry eye disease, so see your doctor if you are concerned.
All right, while some traditional New Year's Day events in Maine were canceled due to the cold, one of Boston's oldest traditions continued today with hundreds of people plunging into Boston Harbor.
Participants jumped up and down on the shore as the moment approached for the plunge, which is hosted by the L Street Brownies. Brave and cold, hardy souls leaped into the harbor around 9 o'clock this morning. That event has taken place for more than 100 years. The Brownies are the oldest polar bear club in America. Spectators were on hand with some holiday costumes and hats.
I don't know if that's going to be enough to keep them warm.
Nope, I'm sure it was not. By the way, Maine Medical Center welcomed its first baby of the new year this morning at 3:30. This photo is from Jason and Anya. Happy birthday and Happy New Year to their new baby, Jackson.
And the Bangor Fire Department also got in on the excitement of New Year's babies with helping a couple deliver theirs earlier today. So congratulations to them. And I know the first baby at Mercy Hospital, I believe, was at 6 a.m.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So exciting stuff, exciting day. All right, lots more news coming up on News Center at 5:30. President Trump returned to the White House on the first day of this new year. Immediately taking to Twitter, the president seems to be addressing many aspects of U.S. foreign policy. We'll talk about exactly what he said.
And despite bitter temperatures outside, it's New Year's Day, and that calls for the same New Year's Day traditions, including ice fishing. Danielle Waugh braved the cold this morning and started off the new year with some ice fishermen. We'll show you if she caught anything coming up in the next half hour.
That was a cool shot, though.
I love that.
Super cool. News Center now continues in a moment with Brain Drops.
All right.
Where you headed?
We're back. Brain Drops. So the question I got, and I got it a few times while I was on vacation, I just saw it in my inbox, was, is it ever too cold to snow?
Yeah.
Which is a very timely question, as it turns out. The short answer is not really in the Earth's atmosphere. So there is a temperature in theory where the air can hold zero moisture. We do not reach that temperature on Earth. However, let's bring this graphic full screen so they can see it, guys. This shows you the air temperature on the bottom versus basically the amount of water vapor the air parcel can hold. And you will notice as we get down to zero and below, you start having very minute amounts of water vapor that the air can hold. So that's why oftentimes when it is very cold, you don't see very much snow, because in short, you can't get very much water vapor in a very cold air mass. Now, it's technically not correct to say that cold air doesn't hold water vapor. There's a long explanation for this. The basic idea is cold air is those molecules slowing down. They get really, really slow. It makes it harder for them to escape into different states from, say, a gas to a liquid, whereas the faster, warmer ones can go from liquid to gas more easily. So that's why you don't see this very often. If we go to the next graphic, you'll see another reason, which is typically with these big Arctic outbreaks, we have a huge ridge of high pressure that comes down from Canada, and that is the catalyst. See this big H here in the northern plains? That is a fair weather system. That's what's dragging down all our cold air. So usually it coincides with the pattern in which we're not going to see much snow. One final tidbit, in parts of Antarctica, some of the coldest parts of the world, they only average 1 or 2 inches of snow a year because it is so cold. So in short, it's never really too cold to snow. It gets harder to snow when it's -10, -15 and below.
I remember we had one year where it was 0 degrees and it was snowing, and all the plow guys were like, I can't believe it's actually snowing right now.
And the threshold usually is around -10 and colder when it gets really hard. You can have a snowstorm at 0, 2, 3 degrees. Below that, now it's hard to get that kind of air mass. And also, some of that snow falls into the atmosphere and evaporates because it's so dry, right? Everybody has a cough right now. Their nose doesn't feel good. It's because the air is so dry, can't hold that amount of moisture. So it's an interesting question, and the short answer is on Earth, it's not really an issue. It just gets harder for it to happen.
Okay.
So our snowstorm on Thursday will be back into the 20s, which is great because you can then wear, I think it's bikini weather now at 20,
go get a tan.
23 degrees. We'll talk more about that storm coming up in these next couple newscasts. That's going to be a big one for us to watch though Thursday night.
All right, News Center at 5:30 starts right now.